So you want to own a car wash. Water, soap, a building, and cars that show up on their own. No inventory to restock, no skilled labor, no complicated product. A single wash costs you maybe $2 in water and chemicals, and you charge $20. That's not a small margin. That's a margin most industries would kill for. 80–90% gross margin on paper before you've spent $1 on anything else. That number is real. It's also almost completely useless because it's measuring the wrong thing entirely. Here's the actual shape of this business. Thousands of independent car washes open every year in the United States, and a meaningful share of them don't survive past their 5th year. Meanwhile, one single company has spent the last decade quietly buying up hundreds of car washes, built a subscription program with well over 2 million paying members, crossed $1 billion in annual revenue for the first time in its history, and just agreed to be taken private in a deal valuing it at over $3 billion. Same industry, same water, same soap. 2 completely different outcomes. So here's the real question. If the margin on washing a car is this generous, why does almost nobody make real money doing it? Except the handful who figured out this isn't actually a car washing business at all. Before we get to the money, you need to understand there isn't one car wash business. There are 3, and they have completely different economics. Self-serve bays. You pull in, feed coins or a card into a machine, and wash the car yourself. Lowest cost to build. Almost no staff. But also the lowest revenue per customer, and it depends entirely on people wanting to do the work themselves. A shrinking preference every year. In-bay automatics. A single robotic arm washes your car while you sit inside it. Mid-range investment, moderate staffing, moderate throughput. This used to be the dominant model at gas stations across the country. Express exterior tunnels. A conveyor belt pulls your car through a tunnel of brushes, foam, and dryers in about 3 minutes while you wait in a lobby or leave immediately. Highest cost to build, highest throughput, and this is the important part. The only format built around a monthly membership instead of a one-time purchase. This third format is the one attracting billions of dollars of private equity money right now. And there's one company that built the playbook for it better than anyone, Mr. Car Wash. It's the largest car wash chain in the country by unit count, publicly traded, operating over 500 locations across more than 20 states. In its most recent full year, it crossed $1 billion in revenue for the first time, with net income over $100 million. It has more than 2.3 million paying members in its Unlimited Wash Club. And in February of this year, the private equity firm that first invested in it back when it had barely 200 locations agreed to take it fully private again in a deal valuing the entire company north of $3 billion. That's not a car wash. That's a subscription business that happens to clean your car as a delivery mechanism. Now put that next to what usually happens on the other end of this industry. Picture a single independent tunnel opened by a first-time owner who saw the 80% margin, secured a loan, and built on a decent but not great corner. No membership infrastructure worth mentioning, just a punch card taped to the register. No dedicated marketing budget. No real read on the traffic numbers before signing the lease. Within 2 years, it's underwater. Not because the wash itself was bad, but because nobody was managing the business behind the wash. Same industry, same equipment category, same 80% gross margin on the label. One became a $3 billion acquisition target. The other became a bank's foreclosure listing. And once you understand that distinction, everything else about this industry starts to make sense. Let's build an express tunnel from scratch, the way Mr. Car Wash and its competitors actually do it. First, land. You need somewhere between 3/4 of an acre and an acre and a half, ideally on a high-traffic corner with strong visibility from the road. Depending on the market, that alone can run anywhere from $400,000 to over $1 million. Then construction. The tunnel building itself, the canopy over the vacuum stations, site work, drainage. On a ground-up build, this typically runs well over $1 million, sometimes approaching $2.5 million. Then equipment. The wash tunnel machinery, the boiler system, a water reclamation system. Because most municipalities now require you to recycle a large percentage of the water you use, plus the point of sale and membership kiosks that are the actual engine of the business. Equipment alone can run $600,000 to $900,000. Then permits, environmental review, and site prep. The boring stuff nobody budgets enough for. Often another $150,000 to $300,000. Add it up, And a single new build express tunnel commonly costs somewhere between $2.5 and $4.5 million before a single car has ever entered it. That is not a business you start with $50,000 and a dream. Converting an existing gas station or fast food pad site can bring that down significantly, sometimes to $1.5 million to $2 million, which is exactly why so much of the current buying activity in this industry is about acquiring and converting existing real estate, not building from the ground up. Here's where our independent owner from a moment ago made the first of several quiet mistakes. Underestimating the land cost by chasing a cheaper, less visible lot to save a few $100,000 up front. Not realizing that the traffic count on that cheaper lot would never generate enough volume to service the loan on everything else. The startup cost isn't just a number to survive once. It's a number that dictates how much monthly volume the business needs forever. And the location decision locks that requirement in permanently on day one before the tunnel has washed a single car. So if it costs millions of dollars just to open the doors and the wash itself only costs you $2 to deliver, where does a business like this actually make its money back? Here's the mechanism, and it's the single most important idea in this entire video. Instead of charging a customer $20 for one wash, you offer them unlimited washes for $30 a month. Most members use it once or twice a month. Some use it every single week. Some pay for months at a time and never show up at all. Look at what that does to the business model. Mr. Car Wash's own numbers show memberships now account for the large majority of the company's total revenue, well over 3/4 of it. That means the majority of the money coming in every single day isn't tied to how many cars physically drove through the tunnel that day at all. It's tied to how many people are enrolled and paying, whether they show up or not. This is exactly the same mechanism as a gym membership. The real profit in a gym doesn't come from the person who shows up every day and wears out the equipment. It comes from the person who signs up in January, goes twice, and keeps paying anyway. A car wash membership works on identical psychology. You're not really selling clean cars. You're selling the convenience of never having to think about it again, at a price low enough that canceling feels like more effort than it's worth. And once a company builds real scale in this model, it compounds in a way a one-time purchase business never can. Mr. Car Wash didn't get to 2.3 million members by accident. It took years of steadily growing membership counts, quarter after quarter, even in periods when one-time wash volume barely moved. The membership base itself became the asset being bought and sold, more than the physical locations or the equipment inside them. This is exactly the piece our independent owner never built. A punch card isn't a membership system. There's no recurring charge, no predictable monthly revenue, no asset to point to when trying to refinance or sell the business later. Every single month starts back at zero, entirely dependent on enough strangers driving by and deciding, in that specific moment, to pull in. Mr. Car Wash's version of this business barely notices a slow Tuesday. An independent operator running on one-time washes alone feels every single slow Tuesday directly in the bank account. So if the real profit comes from people who pay and don't show up, what actually determines whether a given tunnel succeeds or drowns in its own fixed costs? Before a single dollar becomes profit, a well-run tunnel has to clear a long list of monthly obligations. Labor. Typically 2 to 4 staff per shift, since even a fully automated tunnel needs people directing traffic, handling memberships, and doing basic maintenance. This is often the single most controllable cost on the list, and also the one first-time owners most consistently underestimate, since scheduling around peak traffic hours. Weekend mornings, post-rain surges requires real staffing discipline, not just a fixed headcount. Utilities. Tunnels are enormous, consumers of both water and electricity, and this is often one of the largest and most volatile line items on the monthly statement, since it moves directly with volume and with local utility rate changes that an operator has zero control over. Chemicals and consumables. Soap, wax, tire shine, all of it recurring, and all of it scaling directly with wash count, unlike rent or the loan payment, which stay fixed no matter how many cars come through. Equipment maintenance. Conveyor systems and high-pressure equipment break down, and repairs aren't optional. A tunnel down for even a single day during a peak weekend can represent a meaningful percentage of that month's entire volume, gone permanently, not deferred. Insurance, which for a business handling other people's vehicles at speed is not cheap, and tends to climb steadily as claim history builds regardless of how careful day-to-day operations are. Marketing, specifically the cost of constantly refilling the top of the membership funnel, since, like any subscription business, A meaningful percentage of members cancel every single month and have to be replaced just to stay flat. This is the cost independent operators most often skip entirely, treating marketing as optional rather than as the fuel that keeps the entire membership engine from slowly draining itself empty. And finally, if the location was financed rather than paid for outright, a loan payment that can easily be the single largest expense on the list. And, unlike every other line item here, completely fixed regardless of how good or bad that specific month turns out to be. Add all of this together, and a well-run express tunnel typically needs somewhere in the range of 5,000 to 8,000 total car washes a month, counting both members and one-time customers, just to clear its costs and reach break-even. Below that number, the location is quietly losing money every single month, regardless of how good the wash itself is. This is why the real question investors and operators ask isn't, is a car wash profitable? It's, does this specific piece of road have enough daily traffic? And can I convert enough of that traffic into members to consistently clear that number? That single question is worth more than every other consideration in this business combined. 3 variables decide almost the entire outcome, and none of them have anything to do with how clean the car ends up. Traffic count on the road. Industry operators generally look for something like 20,000 or more vehicles passing per day as a baseline for a new site. Below that, you're relying on destination visits instead of impulse conversions, which is a much harder business to run. This is the single number our independent owner never actually pulled before signing the lease. And it's also the single number that, checked properly, would have told the whole story before a dollar was spent. Membership penetration. The tunnels that thrive get somewhere between 40 and 60%, sometimes far more, as we've seen with the larger chains, of their total revenue from memberships rather than one-time washes. The ones that struggle stay dependent on one-time customers, which means their revenue swings with the weather, the season, and how often people simply remember the business exists. Tunnel speed. More cars processed per hour on the same fixed cost base of labor, rent, and utilities directly multiplies revenue without multiplying cost at anywhere near the same rate. This is the quiet engineering advantage that separates operators who are barely profitable from operators generating serious margin on the exact same footprint. 2 tunnels with identical build costs and identical rent can post wildly different profit simply because one processes cars 40% faster than the other. Get all 3 right, and you end up looking something like Mr. Car Wash. Profitable enough and predictable enough that a private equity firm will pay over $3 billion to own the whole thing outright. Get even one of them wrong on a single location, and you can be sitting on a multi-million-dollar building that quietly bleeds cash every month until someone forecloses on it, which is exactly the fate that met our independent owner from earlier, roughly 2 years after opening, once the loan payment finally outpaced what a punch card business on a mediocre corner could ever realistically generate. So, could you actually run a car wash? If you're picturing $50,000 in a dream, no. This is not that kind of business, whatever the 80% margin on the label makes it look like. If you've got access to real capital, a genuinely high-traffic corner, and you understand from day one that the product isn't the wash. It's the membership, and everything else is delivery infrastructure for that membership. This is one of the few boring businesses that institutional money is actively fighting to own more of, right now, in real time, while most people driving through the tunnel have no idea any of this is happening above their heads. The gap between those 2 outcomes we walked through, a $3 billion acquisition on one side, a foreclosure notice on the other, was never really about the soap, or the water, or even the equipment. It was about traffic data pulled before signing a lease, a membership system built instead of a punch card taped to a register, and a monthly break-even number someone actually calculated instead of assumed. Next time, we're looking at a business that appears even simpler than a car wash on the surface, the laundromat, and why its economics run almost exactly backwards from everything we just covered.